Hi everyone, I'm back with our second video for week 7, and in this video we're going to talk a little bit about the preschool years. All about preschoolers. So who are preschoolers? Just like we defined infants and toddlers as children between the ages of birth to 2 years of age. Preschoolers are generally children between the ages of 3 to 5 years of age. Sometimes we just think about 3 and 4-year-olds, but preschool age children do include some 5-year-olds. Preschoolers today may have already experienced up to 3 years of childcare or early learning, and this really influences their social interactions and the way that they are experiencing school for the first time at a much younger age now than in previous decades. And third, preschoolers are eager and ready to learn. What is the role of preschools in our current education system? If you remember back to our week on legislation, you will remember that one of the roles of early childhood education in the US is a way to prepare well-trained and educated workforce in order to have economic benefits for our country. And so there has been some research done on the cost benefits for taxpayers for including preschool education as part of the public education system here in the US. And just some highlights of that research are that high quality early education does provide benefits for children from all socioeconomic backgrounds, but especially those in low socioeconomic backgrounds. And research has also demonstrated that money spent on preschool reduces money spent later for additional services. And these additional services include things like special education services, juvenile detention services, justice system services, because preschool increases positive outcomes for things like graduation and cognitive skills. It reduces child maltreatment and also shows a reduction in special education services needed later on because of the availability of early intervention and high quality interaction and instruction that's occurring in preschool to prepare children for kindergarten and later school grades. Preschool also plays an important role for working families, and as we all know, more families today are considered working families with more than one parent working outside of the home, or right now during a pandemic from home, but still working a career outside of being what's traditionally considered sort of a stay-at-home parent or someone serving the role of just a caregiver. Although I don't want to downplay the role of a caregiver as a job, that is a very important job. But these are families who have other careers outside of parenting. And working families are really advocating for public schools to provide preschool programs to help with the burden of childcare. So I just want you to be thinking about the potential benefits of preschool options for working families and for really reducing some of these later academic and social issues that might be occurring if high quality early education settings aren't provided for all children. When we think about development for preschool children, these follow the same general domains that we talked about for infants and toddlers, so I'm not going to get quite as detailed with this. Please do look in the textbook. There's some really great charts and figures explaining explicitly preschool development. But in general, we're looking for things in physical development to include motor coordination, activities that promote both gross and fine motor development. So we're going to see things like children starting to learn to write, starting to run, hop, skip, jump, doing more than the basic walking and big motor skills. In social emotional development, we're going to start seeing the emergence of self-regulation or executive functioning. Executive functioning and self-regulation are used somewhat interchangeably, and this is really the act of being able to plan, initiate, and finish an activity. So from start to finish, being able to complete a task. Things like delaying gratification. I don't know if any of you have seen recently the challenges that are going around on social media with asking children to wait instead of eating a preferred food, like a cookie or a marshmallow. Younger children are not going to have the ability to wait in order to get 2 cookies rather than going ahead and eating the 1 cookie that's in front of them. But as we see children entering the preschool years, this becomes a more appropriate skill for them. We're also seeing preschoolers be able to start controlling their emotions and to respond to feedback from adults and from peers. In the cognitive domain, we're really seeing Piaget's pre-operational stage emerge at this point. Preschoolers are still very egocentric and focused on the self, and they do still have difficulties taking the side of another person or another viewpoint, but this is why we really focus on those social emotional skills and being able to interact with others and to talk about things like feelings and needs and desires. And as far as language is concerned, we're starting to see the use of more sophisticated language, which includes things like helping verbs, nouns, subject clauses, prepositions, and preschoolers are really talking in full sentences, having back and forth conversations. So there's a statement, then there's a response, and then there's a response to that statement, and really seeing that reciprocal communication happening. We also see a lot of the use of the word no as a common response. Things like, do you want to do blank? And you might get the answer no, even though that child really does want to do that activity. This is really sort of a development of independence and seeing preschoolers really think about how they can assert their voice and make decisions. When we talk about the preschool years, we can't really skip over this idea of school readiness. A lot of proponents of increasing funding for preschool, especially public preschool, are really focused on the fact that preschool prepares children for success in school and to be ready for entering kindergarten or what some would deem more formal academic experiences. So what are these skills and knowledge needed for success in kindergarten? And who makes these decisions? And we also have to consider a shared responsibility between families, professionals, communities, and the governments that are implementing these preschool programs. Not one person is individually responsible for this school readiness anymore. There's also a little bit of a debate about whether or not time itself is enough of a factor to prepare children for school. So you might hear some parents or some professionals advocating for just holding a child back for a year and letting them develop on their own a little bit in order to be ready for kindergarten or other school experiences. But really, we want to think about this idea that Froebel's concept of unfolding, which is that idea that teachers are gardeners and that children will naturally develop, but they need somebody to cultivate that learning and development. So rich and supportive environments really do help to support children's appropriate development in preschool settings. And we want to have a pretty good combination of time to develop naturally, as well as support from caregivers, teachers, and others as children enter preschool for their first educational experiences. Along with school readiness comes this concept of readiness for learning. And it's my belief, and many early childhood educators' belief, that preschool really sets the stage for later learning and school success. And we know that not all children enter public schools with the same knowledge and skills. So therefore, when we think about readiness for learning, we want to see children entering preschool with some basic self-help skills and independence. And if they're not already entering with these things, then our preschool years will help cultivate these skills so that children can enter kindergarten and enter the public school settings with these skills. And these also include things like motor skills, such as coordination, the ability to write, even if they're not writing real words yet, or they're not really sure about spelling, then they're at least practicing writing and doing some approximations. We need to see some language skills developing so that children can communicate wants and needs and engage in appropriate conversations. We also would like to see the emergence of social skills to play and interact with others, including being able to show empathy and understanding. And we also want to see some general approaches to learning, such as engagement and initiative. Again, we want to see children being able to engage in a task and follow through to completion. Just as a reminder, play in preschool does play a large role in children's learning. As Montessori said, play is children's work, and preschool is the work environment where learning occurs. And there are many types of play that happen in preschool settings. This includes things like social play, where children are playing in groups with others. Social play develops over time to become more sophisticated. So you'll start off seeing children engaging in things like parallel play, where they're simply just playing next to a child in the same general area, but not really interacting. And then over time, they start interacting and engaging in cooperative play with one another and having really rich interactions with other preschoolers. We also see play in the form of informal or free play, where children are engaging in activities that interest them. This is really where we start to see the idea of learning centers with grouped materials, so things like a dramatic play area, such as a kitchen or something like that. We see a block center, a reading center, maybe something that has a lot of tactile materials to play with. And we really want to see teachers engaging as active participants during free play in high quality settings. So free play does not mean just independent play. It means play where the child is really leading what is happening, but teachers are still engaging actively during those interactions. We also see the emergence of sociodramatic play or pretend play, and there should be a good mixture of outdoor play included as well, which is simply just time outside playing. And this can also include typical learning activities such as science and nature projects happening outside while children are playing. All of these different types of play have large implications for teaching. And the first is that we need to plan to promote meaningful play. We secondly need to implement curriculum and learning activities through play. And third, provide a safe and supportive environment for play to take place. When we think about the future of preschool, we really will probably see an even more increasing focus on public schools providing preschool for young children. And this might come in the form of universal preschool, which is free and accessible preschool for all children. We would like to see an increase in high-quality teachers. There's some work going on called Power to the Profession, which includes a large group of professional organizations advocating for high-quality standards and credentialing for all early childhood teachers. And we will probably continue to see increased funding as we continue using data and research to back up this idea of return on investment for preschool. And hopefully we'll see a shift in including preschool as part of the beginning of children's formal educational experiences.